Melinda, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
So our next presenter is Brad McIntyre with McIntyre Pastures in Caldwell, Idaho, and he's going to be talking about management intensive grazing and pork and poultry. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. So Brad, you can share yours.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. I haven't been able to listen to all, hopefully I'm not repetitive on what's going on, but I wanted to give a little bit of our family history and then talk about direct marketing and then go over the pork and poultry grazing. So if questions, I don't know how deep to go into all of it, you know, questions. I like when people ask questions. So,
Okay. Brad, I'm going to jump in for just a sec and let you know that your slides are, okay, now they're in presentation mode, and we might need to ask you to transfer to the phone. We're getting a lot of kind of feedback, probably due to internet strength, so let's give it a try, but I might jump in and ask you to jump on the phone.
You want me to phone so we're more clear, or what do you want to do?
I think if you switched to the phone now, it's going to be a lot more clear. Okay. I'm hearing a lot of kind of static on the line, and I think it's probably an internet issue.
Do I do that through the email that was sent?
Yes, and Mackenzie, could you go ahead and send the call-in phone number directly to Brad through his email and then put it into the chat as well?
Yes, working on that right now.
Okay, we'll get that to you in just a second, Brad.
Okay.
Our participants, thanks for hanging in there while we get the audio switched from the computer to phone. And Mackenzie, feel free to walk us through where you're at in that transition.
The call-in number is in the chat, and it is in an email.
Great. And if you might want to go ahead and put the call-in number in that chat to all the panelists and participants, that might be helpful in case anybody else runs into a sound issue later today. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, Brad, we lost your screen. The screen sharing went away.
Yeah, I was trying to get the phone number here.
Oh, okay. I can give that to you if it'd be easier.
We'll see that. And what's the meeting ID?
Let's see, just a sec. The meeting ID is 568-788-256.
We'll see if this works. Okay, it says that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm bad at my phone. How do I fix that?
So you want to make sure your computer sound is off when you're using the phone.
That, I think I've got it there.
Okay, great.
No, I don't. I can still be. I muted my computer.
I'm not hearing you right now, and your
Can
slides.
So
when I talk, I hear myself back, but my
Okay,
it says
so
I'm mute.
go on the bottom of your control bar. Click on the up arrow by the microphone. So there's a microphone that says mute underneath. Click on the up arrow to the right of it, and then just go ahead and highlight switch to phone audio and click on that.
So at the bottom.
So in your control bar,
Okay.
at the bottom of your screen, all the way on the left, there's a microphone icon. And if you click on the arrow just to the right of the microphone, in the bottom third.
Oh, switch to phone audio.
Switch to phone audio.
Okay. I can't hear myself now, so.
Okay, I can hear you, so we're good.
All right. So we're good to go?
Yep, you just need to put it in slideshow mode, and then we're good.
All right, I think I've done that. So is everyone seeing it now?
We're seeing it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, sorry for all the confusion there. The farm internet is not as good as some people, so I apologize. All right, so I'm gonna start with family history a little bit, and then I'm gonna move into direct marketing, then pork and poultry. So I am a fourth generation farmer. This is my grandfather Frank and a couple of my aunts. My father was born right at the tail end of a big family, so I never got to know my grandparents very well. They had passed on before I had come around. So I love learning about that history and where we come from. And so my grandfather took our farm over from his uncle because he also had a big family and there wasn't enough space for everyone. So, and he was a McIntyre as well. So, you know, in farming, we've moved a lot of people have went far away from the past as we've moved into technology and stuff, and that's all good and well, and a lot of things. We started really focusing on our soil health because we also run around 1,000 acres besides the animal side. So we still have a big farm, conventional farm that's going on, but soil became my passion. And as I focused on soil, animals kept coming back into the picture on how I improve my soil and how I make it better. And we had sold all the animals off as a kid. We tore all the fences out, and we had to have everything super clean and looking pretty. And that didn't bode well for animals on the farm, so they all went away. But as I got more and more into that cover crops, I knew I needed cattle. So I finally convinced my father to bring cattle back, and with that, I was really focused on the soil health, and I knew that if I gave the porons and that kind of stuff to the cattle, that was going to go out of, you know, in their manure and urine, and then it was going to start harming my bugs in the soil that I was so focused on. And so we started running into other issues with our cattle, and that's what led into the chickens. As you can see in the background of this picture, my wife and my kids, my dad and my mother, Lauren and Kathy, my brother Ben and Maria and their children, were all the ones on the farm, and you can see the chickens in the background. So that, you know, it started this whole snowball of animals on the farm, and what are we going to do with these? We're raising all these animals. What are we going to do with them? They need to also carry their weight in the financials part of this. So we went headlong and just started learning as much as we could about direct marketing, about animals and why they were important to the land. And it's just been this journey that we've been on. So that's kind of the history of our family, kind of returning back to my grandfather's roots. He had a lot of animals on the farm. He was a dairyman and a beef guy. They also had sheep and they had poultry, and they sold a lot of the products to the neighbors. And so it's kind of coming full circle for us. So we go from there and we switch into direct marketing, which at the top we have is the hardest job on the farm. And a lot of people will kind of scoff at that and wonder why, but the farm with the animal side cannot be successful without this portion being there. And it's a constant job. Yeah, my sister-in-law Maria is the one in charge of the marketing, and it's a lot. I've done a little bit of it with her. I wish she was here today to speak to it, but she's constantly every day marketing, and you can't stop, and it never sleeps. So why marketing? It's the success. And it doesn't matter how good your product is. If you don't market it properly, somebody else is going to, and their product's going to sell before yours. Not because it's the best, but just because they were able to market it and get it to the people. And so I definitely want to make that point that if you are going to be selling direct to the people, this is what you need to focus on. You need to have a very, very solid business plan on how the marketing is going to go down and what you're going to do to get in contact with those people and stay in contact with them. Because, everywhere around the country right now, you can hear the word sustainable. They talk about sustainability in a lot of things. And financial sustainability is highly important to farming, and especially direct marketing, because, like I said, you can be doing the best job out of anybody, but if somebody's not buying your product and you're not able to get the price you need, your business plan will go down the tube. So it's very, very important. So as we move into the how, I put convenience first. The reason I put convenience first is because it goes back to that you having the best product. But if it's not easy to order, it's the Amazon thing of the world. People probably aren't going to come find your product. We ran into this in the very beginning. We just thought we're going to have it available here on the farm. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to want it. And those very few dedicated people did come get it. But when you're trying to market to the masses, if it's not convenient, they're not going to go. So we went and purchased, we took our website and we linked it up with GrazeCart. It's the platform that we sell through now. It's a monthly service fee and you can sell online. So we went to online ordering with drop-off locations and the farmer's market. That's what we implemented that next year. And that's helped us a lot, is that platform, so we could bring more convenience to our customers. And the online ordering was slow to take off. The farmer's market naturally is already in place. People really like that. And we started getting customers more and more from that farmer's market. And then the drop-off locations, they were kind of the first hit. But now the online ordering is starting to keep up with those other three. This last year, we added home delivery into the mix because we started hearing from customers, I like your product at market, but it's just not that convenient during the winter when you're not at market. And so we started this home delivery thing. We have a set $75 minimum for free delivery, or they can pay a delivery fee. And we go once a week. No, we go every 2 weeks. We're starting to get to the need where we're going to start every week doing delivery, so our delivery truck doesn't get too full. but we do home delivery, and that's really helped. Every time we add another level of convenience, we see an uptick in sales. And so convenience is very important to that marketing. We got to make it easy for them, which you don't, I mean, it's like, oh, we don't want to make, you know, lazy purchasers, but that's what they're wanting. They have a busy life, and we got to figure out how to get it to them. Because if we don't, somebody else is going to provide that for them, and it's more than likely it's going to be Amazon. So how do we get a piece of it? The next most important thing by far is email. So any time we're around people, we're always trying to grab their email. That email list is essential. It's the lifeline to everything else we do. When we send emails out with an ask, when I say ask, asking to purchase, we automatically see sales. Until the coronavirus, the coronavirus is something that brought on a lot of sales. It's been really busy this last week, and farmers across the nation, I've talked to multiple ones, they've all have seen the same uptick in sales. But we send emails out, and we don't try to always ask. Sometimes we just send out information, but when we do, then you see that it's a direct correlation. The next thing is social media. We do a lot on Instagram and Facebook, but there's the Twitters, there's all kinds of different social medias, but we do the Instagram and Facebook. And we're just trying to give them good quality information, videos, and photos. They want to be a part of the experience. They don't get to experience what we consider normal everyday things is not normal and everyday for them. So the little things that you don't think are important, they really go crazy about. So just take pictures and videos of everything, and you'll be surprised at the highest likes or watches and stuff. It really does surprise me some days what my sister-in-law will post and what people react to. But social media is how people can join you in kind of your experience. We don't get a lot of orders through social media, but it's some way that they can connect to you and be a part of your life. And so it's an important aspect to a direct sales business. The other thing is all the free posting sites, Weston A. Price, Eat Wild. I know there's a lot more. Those are the first two that kind of came to my mind that we're a part of. And there's others my sister-in-law posts to, and you can find them out there on Google, but you'll want to be on all those posting sites. Just be a part of it, because we do get random sales. It's not a lot, but you'll pick up a sale here and there from that. So why not take that free advertising when you can? So the next biggest thing is identifying your customer. You need to know who that is and why you are going after those certain people, and be direct in doing that. My sister-in-law, she always says, our main customer on our farm is that 30 to 50-year-old soccer mom. And that's our biggest class of customer. We have them in all ranges, but if you look at the highest orders come from that level. So she tries to do a lot of things to appeal to that customer class, and you try to hit all classes, but we know our customer in that range. And then along with that, you have to know your pricing, especially if you're going to a farmer's market. You need to know everything about your price and why, and make sure it's a price that is good for the farm. I've had a lot of friends that have started businesses like ours and other businesses, and they try to price according to what other people in the area are priced at, and that doesn't always mean it's going to work for your farm. I use Excel spreadsheets like crazy. I build Excel spreadsheets all the time. That's just kind of my personality. But I am constantly updating new pricing and where it's at, because if we're not going to make money, if we're not going to gain something financially and stay financially sustainable, why are we doing it? You know, you have to justify why these animals are here, and everybody has to, you know, be, you know, giving back to the greater good. And so know your pricing. Don't just put out whatever the neighbor is pricing their stuff as. Make sure there's a profit built in there. So know your customer and know your pricing. And then on the content, we talked a little bit about it, but do it often. And I say, don't overdo your welcome. Think back to what you like, you know, on your social media, on your email. Every day, it's probably a little overwhelming. Make sure that if it makes you feel like, man, this is too much, don't be that person. But you need to be often enough that they don't forget who you are. It seems silly that we have to do it often. We have to be in their faces, but I always tell people we have to remind them that they want our goods. And that I always chuckle at it, but people have to be reminded that we're here and that we have good product and it's available. So definitely do it often and remind them that, you know, that you're there, that you have things available at a certain time. Quality videos. Quality is the biggest thing on your videos especially, but, you know, do what you can. The iPhones take pretty good quality anymore, but make sure it's stuff that looks really good. And also share the good and the bad. People want to know that you have problems just like they have problems. And, you know, it doesn't have to be gory or anything else, but just, you know, if you had a predator, you can share enough to show that you had a predator problem and let them experience those good and bad. And we don't do it all the time, but they need to know that it's not all, you know, baby chicks and bunnies and little lambs. There are some hard times on the farm. And so make sure that is shared, that, you know, this is real life and these are happening. So I don't know if you want to do any questions after marketing, but that's the end of my marketing spiel before we move on to that, or we can just move on and do it at the end.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on and do that at the end, and I'll remind folks, okay, you can go ahead and type your questions in at any time so they're ready for the Q&A session.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so moving on, pigs were one of the last things we added to the farm. We tried to incorporate pigs, you know, in a grazing rotation with other animals, and my dad, he is very set on very nice looking field still, and the pigs don't really do well at that. They like to tear things up. And so I'm sure I know there's other breeds and stuff that do a better job grazing. We tried those in the beginning. The amount of fat and meat quality and stuff was off. And so trying to hit what the customers want versus, you know, what's easy on the pasture, we didn't get there. So we went back to some of the standard breeds with Berkshire influence and Duroc influence, and we just keep them in their own pasture rotation. It's on 3 acres. We move them every day into a different pasture when the grass is on, and then we just have to come in and that's one of the only places on the farm that we till. Is we will renovate those pastures and get them planted back and keep them out of those different little paddocks while they're you know, getting planted again. But they are really tough on land. And so we don't have any forest. I wish we had some type of treed area that they could go in and root up and it wouldn't be a big problem, but we have all irrigated farmland, as you can tell here. And so we have chose to keep them into a confined area on that farm, that 3 acres. And it's a lot of space. We run around between 50 and 70 pigs at any given time. And there's plenty of space. It's about a 20-day rotation for them. And so there's lots of space. We keep all the sizes together. We get little wiener pigs. We keep them until they're 70, 80 pounds in a old milk barn, where we feed them a higher protein ration. And then when they get about that size, then we will introduce them to the rest of the herd and get them on the lower protein feed and get them going. So in the background of the picture on the left, you can see some of the smaller pigs mixed in with the bigger ones. And then the picture on the right, I included that one. We have that kind of straw bale looking house up all year. We have to rebuild it about twice a year because they like to eat down the lower bales and ruin them. So we always have to put new bales in, but it's just a really cheap, it's really insulated besides on the ends. They get in there, we put straw down in the bottom, and they just all nestle in together, and everyone stays really, warm, and then there's a lot of airflow, so they don't have, a lot of that stuffy air building up. So that's how we keep them during the winter. And they have that for shade also to come back to in the summer. They have access to that house, and then the feed and water is just up to the left above that. And so they have access to that feed and water while they're on grass. We provide that grain ration to them. It's a triticale and pea mix is what we feed them. We don't have any corn or soy on our pigs. I'm not saying that, anybody can choose whatever you want. That's what we chose in the beginning. Our chickens are soy free, so we went corn and soy free on them. We had a couple customers that were really requesting it, and we knew we could do it with the teas that we had in the area and the triticale screenings, and so that's why we chose the ration that we did. But yeah, that's the house. That's their shade, because we don't have a lot of trees. We got new trees planted, but we don't have very big trees right now to provide that shade. So, but yeah, from 80 pounds on, they're mixed all the way through their life, and we try to butcher them at around a 230 pound hanging weight. So they get quite large by the time they're ready. The picture on the left is one of the farm tours that was coming through. You can see the lower end of these paddocks that they really like to root up. Anytime we're irrigating and that water settles down here in the bottom, they just root like crazy. And, it's one of those things that we can't control very well. That's just their nature is to till. And so, we just choose to redo the pastures. But I put those pictures in there to see they do keep certain areas good, as you can see behind them, but they also love to root it up. As soon as it's really moist, they'll just really go after the root crops. But it is amazing how much grass they will eat. People say that they won't, but man, when you put them in those first paddocks at the beginning of the year, and their poop, you can see in their manure that it really starts coming through, and they will make an impact on that area. So we do keep them separate. We provide them grain, always access to good cold water, and then we worm them with garlic. We've in the past been able to get it from a couple neighbors, and now we're going to have to start raising ourselves because those producers went away. But we use a lot of garlic and diatomaceous earth on the pigs. We don't use any chemicals on them. So yeah, that's our management with the pigs. Moving on to the chickens, we started with our first egg mobile we built out of a trailer house frame, that picture on the right. It held about 300 hens, and it worked well. We just didn't have enough space to really grow that. That 300 hens is the state limit before you're state inspected. So we went right to that level. First couple of years worked well, but we wanted to increase. Our customers wanted more and more, and so we knew we wanted to jump into that inspected size, and so we kind of had to go away from that model, that house, and so here on the next slide I'll show you what we went to next. But the picture on the left, I put that one in there. You can see the chicken on the left has a big leaf in her mouth, and same thing as pigs. Do they really eat the grass and the plants? And yes, they do. They will eat quite a bit, and especially the brassicas. That's a chicory plant. Anything that's got quite a bit of water in it, in the grass, really tender grass, they love it. Once it gets kind of woody and slimy, naturally they go all the way away from it. So clover leaves, those kind of things, the chickens really will eat well as long as it's in the right size for them. So on our second generation, down here on the left, we went to a pole type house. It came out of the Midwest from Seven Sons, and we thought it was going to be the best thing for them. What we found out quickly is they were just always on the ground. We put bars in there to get them to roost up, but they were always sitting down on their manure. And we started getting some health problems with the birds. And we tried all different things all summer to try to do a better job with them. The mobile coops, the nice thing is they're off their manure. And also it's kind of 2 layers. So they can be up in the house or they can be under their house. So there's shade in both areas. Whereas this style of house, there's some roofs in there, but they just didn't use them that well, and were always on the ground. So it was just kind of one level. I really didn't like the pole houses for laying hens, and it caused a lot of complexities. We were able to move. We moved into different style houses from these, and it's a lot of moving around, but it was a lot of experimenting. Luckily, we have this big farm that was able to fund our mistakes. The nice thing is these houses got turned into broiler houses, so we were able to use them. They weren't a waste, but it was a hard lesson learned that year. Production was really low, and we just learned a lot. It was hard to overcome that, but we went back to other houses. But as the chickens are rotating, this year you can see that we provided the fencing, electric netting. We don't do that anymore, just labor reasons. We put netting up with hot wire all the way around all of our fields with animals. We bit the bullet and spent that money just because we didn't want to move this fence every day. And it's just a lot of work, and it's a lot of work to get it done right and to get it tight enough. So we went away from that. The picture on the right, I want to show you that we just move them with the cattle. This pole type house completely took away that option of moving these chickens with the cows. We'd have to bring the cows to them, but they were only with them a couple of days, and the cows had to go away because they ran out of food. So the mobile house was definitely the right thing. And it was just another confirmation of how we screwed up there. But the chickens do well about 3 to 4 days behind the cattle. So our newest egg mobile, you can see in both these pictures, we built these ourselves after traveling. We went around the United States kind of looking at different styles that people had, and we kind of developed our own. So it's the schooner type we've got gravity feeders down the side. There's water pipes that run down each side inside, and the lay box is down the center. On the picture on the right, you can see the lay box in the middle, and in the middle there's an egg belt so they can lay on each side. There's an egg belt in the middle that the eggs roll down. So you collect off the back. You don't have to go in and mess with them. But, these houses do take a lot of training. We're doing that right now with our new batch. It's just all training. So every night we're helping them roost. We are, teaching them to go back in at night, but we do a lot of that right now. So that way the summer is a lot easier. Not saying that you're going to get away from work, but if you train really good right now, the summer goes so much better. So that way we come in at night, we close up these doors so there's no way the predators can get them. We make sure nothing's underneath, close them up, get them in tight, and they're locked away good for the night. And we took away all the predator issues that way. We we have the one on the left, you can see there's a silage tarp that goes over them as our shade cloth. The one on the right hasn't got it yet, but we run that silage tarp as a shade. It cuts a lot of that sun out, so it's really cool inside. And the only thing we have the solar panel on the front for is to run their lights in the morning to get the right amount of hours of lighting. So in the wintertime, they come off the pasture once the water starts freezing. This is our winter house, the hoop structure. And we have the feed and water down one side. And on the left here is where we hadn't put in the lay boxes that were in the other house yet, but they are now down this one to the left side. So this is when we had just got them in here, and we have deep bedding. We change that bedding out every year after the winter. That's everything.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. We do have some questions that have come in. And okay. So I'll go ahead and do the marketing questions first.
Okay.
So the first marketing question is, what online marketing platform do you use?
So it's GrazeCart, GRAZECART. So if you just type in GrazeCart, it's another farm out of Indiana, and they've built this platform. Barn to Door is another one that works pretty good. We didn't switch to them. GrazeCart has some stuff that is unique and we like. Their inventory deal is really nice. But Barn to Door is another one that does a really good job for farms.
Okay, great. Thank you. And
Yep.
then there was another question about sharing the bad. So do you just share straightforward that it happened, or do you share any of the consequences and the emotions around that as well?
So when we had those pole type houses, just as a story, you would think chickens can follow their house, but if we moved them farther than 100 feet because they weren't locked in a house, they would get lost, and their house is just right over there. So we had to do a long move that day to get straightened out and get into another rung. And so we moved about 300 feet. So we took the time to move all the chickens back up to the house, make sure everyone got to the house to get to water. Well, everyone was busy that day on the farm, and so we all left to do other irrigation jobs. And everyone came back about 3 o'clock to the farm, and the chickens had moved down to where the house was the day before. Why, I don't know. And it was over 100 degrees that day, and we lost about 200 chickens. We had moved up, so we've had around 3,000 chickens since that first 300. We went to 3,000. So there was about 200 chickens dead in the pasture, and it was all from heat stress. So on that particular time, yeah, we did share, like, we had this big problem, chickens went away. We didn't show pictures of 200 dead birds, but just say, you know what, we've learned a lot of lessons. We had this problem with the heat, and they got into heat stress, but I wouldn't share a crazy amount, but just enough to know that, today was a hard day, and this is why.
Okay, thanks. We have a request if maybe we could see that last slide that you showed, that interior slide, one more time.
How do you go backwards on this?
Usually it is I think it's the down arrow. No, the up arrow.
Yeah, for some reason it's not.
Let's see. I can also roll.
There it goes. Okay. I got it. For some reason it wasn't going. Now it's going. Yeah,
okay.
So here's the winter house.
It'll show for us in just a second. We have a little bit of delay. Oh, now we see it.
Okay.
So there it is. Great. Thank you. We have another question about, I think there wasn't a question. It was just that we had a delay on our side. So when you were talking about it, we were actually seeing the slide before. So if a question comes in about it, I'll let you know. We did have a question though about the straw bale house for the
Yeah.
hogs. Is that something that you can walk into, or what is the height of that?
Yeah, so our first ones were not. You had to be hunched over, but we've since changed that. We're always trying to make jobs easier on all the employees, and so now they're at 6 foot. So if you're over 6 foot, then you're gonna have to hunch a little bit. But at least most people can get the straw bales in to get them broke and get them spread around. And when we're sorting pigs for butchering and just doing animal welfare checks, you know, you can get it through there real easy. You don't have to hunch down and crawl, because you used to almost have to crawl in the very opening to get in and kind of stand up a little bit. And it was just, you're in manure, no one likes it. And so people didn't want to go in there very often. So now it's nice and open. You can walk right in, do your checks really easy, or herd animals out, and it's a lot better.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have 2 questions about how you protect your chickens when they're out in the field from predators. One is specifically asking about aerial predators, and the other is predators in general.
So on aerial predators, we've realized our biggest problem comes in the fall when a lot of the food goes away. Aerial predators seem to leave us alone until that point. But we put all the chickens in the middle of October this year. It got really cold. You know, in September it got a lot colder than normal, and then really had those really hard frosts there in October, and so a lot of the food went away for them, and they really liked the chickens at that point. So we just moved into winter house. We've looked at dogs. We will admit we're not the best dog trainers, and so I think dogs are a viable option. The dog that we had, he liked chicken more than anything else, so he liked to eat them. So we always said we had a fox in the hen house. When we did get him doing better with that, he just, when the aerial predators would come down, he let them come down, and it was not good. We have friends that use llamas, and we have friends that use geese. We've done that outside netting and moving the chickens frequently. They're just pretty good about going under the house until this last fall, then they got it. So cross our fingers. The aerial predators haven't been a huge problem. We've been able to move them inside when it did. And at night they're locked up, so the owls aren't a problem. And they can't get in there to mess with them. So skunk has been our biggest predator. And so we have the netting that goes all the way around, and then we run a hot wire 3-4 inches above the ground. So anything that's trying to dig under that wiring is getting shocked, and that's really helped the skunk thing as well. But at night, any chicken that gets left out at night, if it gets away and like we don't see it underneath the house, it's more than likely gonna be skunk or coyote pressure. But since we've got everything done, because we had some ends of our pastures open that we hadn't netted off yet, since we completely netted everything, the fox and the coyote and skunk has virtually went away. So we need to get some type of other guard animal with them, but we've been able to do it without.
Okay. Could you talk a little bit about how you train them to go in the house, and then how that whole process works, that they actually move into the houses, and then do you have to retrain them when they go from the summer house into the winter house?
Yeah, so what we do, so we get new birds every year now. We used to go 2 full seasons with them, but I buy ready-to-lay pullets out of Iowa. And so when they get here, ours got here a couple weeks, well, we're almost 2 weeks now. So they get here, and for 10 days, we put them in the mobile houses direct off of the trailer, and they stay in there for 10 days. We feed and water and do everything in there. It's really tight and cramped, but what we're trying to let them know is this is your new home. We want that really concreted in their mind. And then after the 10th day, we take them out to the pasture, and each house gets fenced separately with that electric netting, so they can't go back, so they can't blend. And then we also fence off underneath the house. And so at night, well, I guess another important thing is we don't force them out of the house. So that first day, we just open those ramps up, and they can come out of the house as their will. If you push them out of the house, in their mind is it's kind of like, this is not safe in here anymore. We're getting forced out. So we want them to come out at their leisure. And then at that first night, we're just there about a half an hour before dark, and we just start walking around with anything to kind of make them flighty a little bit, just keep them moving. We keep the chickens kind of moving around the house, and as it starts getting darker and darker, some of them start loading. And when it gets fairly dark, we just start picking up the ones that aren't. This takes another 7 to 10 days. It's a lot of work. It's not for the weary, but this initial 20 days of training makes summertime so much better. We didn't do it on one batch, and it was 3 months straight of climbing under the houses and pulling chickens, and it was 2 to 3 hour process every night to get that one house in. And now, like last night, it took us 20 minutes after it got dark enough where we started loading them. It was the third night of doing it, of letting them out. And it took us 20 minutes with like 8 people of getting them in. And then it was done. And that was 2,400 birds.
Wow, that's amazing. And then when it comes winter, do they understand that covered areas are their house? And so when you go to the winter house, it's a pretty smooth transition?
Yeah, the winter house, smooth. I don't know if that's the right term. So if you're still looking at this picture, at the back of the house, the houses we made them too wide. They couldn't get in that back door, which is something I would probably change, but is make that door a little wider because the width is what we need on the trailer. So we back them up there. We unload them in one morning so they have all day to be in this house. The problem is at night when it starts getting dark, they all go for that back door. They think that's where my house is. I got unloaded there. That's where I'm supposed to be. And they start piling. So we leave the lights on for 3 days straight. It's not great for the egg thing. It kind of sends them out. But if we turn the lights off, it's just like mass chaos. So we leave the lights on. It's better to do an instant off instead of like a slow dim if you're going to turn the lights off. And you need people in there kind of moving around. They will pile up. The first time we ever did this, we lost 45 birds in about 15 minutes. We had someone go check when the lights went off, and it was 6 deep on the end there. And so we just started pulling chickens and called everyone in. It's like, just run. And so we just started pulling chickens out, got the lights on, and got them moving again. And then that's when we learned we just had to leave the lights on and then get them really used to that new house, because it's not normal for them. It's a stress. And so it's just a high stress period when you switch their housing.
So did I understand correctly that you're recommending that if somebody did a similar design, that they make their winter house opening big enough that they can get that entire trailer in and close it off?
Yeah, and it makes sense because their feed and water are right there, right? You don't, like, we had to put new feed and water in and
Okay.
in lay box and everything. It's really nice if you can just pull that trailer into your winter house, and then they're there, and then that's still their same house. They'll load up, they'll do everything the same. So yeah, it's caused us more work, but in the long run, we don't have to get under trailers and collect eggs and do all that. And we can't move them very far in here either. It fills up pretty tight. So there's some advantages and disadvantages to both situations.
Okay, great, thanks. And then can you talk a little bit about the temperature within that winter house? Does it get hot and you really feel like you need to ventilate it, or?
It's not. It has a really thick fabric on it, so it doesn't get hot like a greenhouse would, but it does warm up a little bit. It doesn't have those huge fluctuations in temperature, but it's amazing that many chickens how much they will heat that building up. This is a 50 by, it's a 50 by 200. And we have fans at the peak on each end, and then just those roller doors and a couple man doors. And so when it's nice days, the doors are open on that end. They go out to the pasture. On really windy, nasty days, we keep them closed. But we have the fans on because the ammonia, just to get that ammonia out and get fresh air going on the days that they're not open. And the temperature, we don't heat it. We don't do anything with it. The egg, the lay rate does go down because we're not heating it and keeping them up to temperature, but that's fine with us. It's, kind of the natural process there. But the temperature, it's just whatever it is. But it's, I would say, 10 to 15 degrees warmer in there than it is out. And our water system is just a gravity system. So we have a tank up front that's filled with a float, and it gravities down to another tank and it gets pumped back. So it's just always moving. And so we've never had the water freeze in this house.
Great, thank you. We just have a couple more questions. One is overall, on average, how many birds do you lose a year?
So this last year, we lost 40%. It was our highest year, and that was there right at the end when the hawks started getting us. And we didn't realize until we sat somebody out there all day to just watch what the hawks were doing. We knew they were circling, but yeah, it was just high loss. You're going to get loss, the tractor moving around, people driving in and out to collect eggs. I mean, there's just, the chickens will, run into the tires. There's always going to be a little bit of loss. We always said 15 to 20% that, over the whole summer that you're going to have to casualties and predators. But this year was really extreme with those hawks at the end. So us finishing that netting there at the end on that, we're interested to see, now that we have the whole property fenced and sealed, what that's going to look like for all kinds of predators. But the aerial, we have to do something about it. We have to figure out that dog, llama, goose, something. We've never ran any roosters. Some people say roosters will help do it, but I don't know. I think that the biggest thing, some lady out of the Midwest told me, is she uses black Australorp chickens because they're black, and the aerial predators will think that they're crows on the ground. And maybe they'll figure that out eventually, but that's what her key, she said she's never had predator issues that way with aerial. But I think our breed definitely, it stands out too for them. But that's been our loss. That was our loss this last year. The years before was in that 10 to 15 or 15 to 20% range.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. And our final question is, can you talk about how your chickens are transported from Iowa, and what is the expense for that type of transport?
So it's a lot cheaper than I thought it would be. So the guy that I get them from, it's about $3,000 for the trip, and it's a gooseneck. He can haul about 2,600 birds on that trailer. They're just tall cages that roll up and lock in place, and he's taken just a cattle trailer and sided it all off so the wind doesn't get in there. He just rolls them up and locks them in place, and then when he gets here, we just roll those off, and they're able to just get loaded right in. He leaves Iowa in the morning. It takes him about 21 hours. He just has a team driver, and they drive here. Besides gas and bathroom stops, they're just always on the road. So it's a quick trip. They get here and then they get unloaded. Cost per chicken, depending on, some people, he's brought us organic chickens before and not just kind of whatever he has available, because we're not certified, and so we'll take whatever he's got. But it's been anywhere from $10.50 a bird down to $8 a bird delivered. You still there?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was saying thank you so much. That was the last question that came in. We really appreciate you sharing your production system and all that you're learning on your farm. So thank you.
So the next one is egg and meat enterprises. We're getting fairly close on time, right?
So we have about 10 more minutes.
10 minutes. Okay, I'll go through. If we want to back up, you can let me know. I'll blaze through this pretty fast.
Okay,
so
I think we're good.
On the farm, we do the eggs, the pastured egg business. We have beef, pork, and chicken, broiler meat, and then turkey. So this is kind of our egg packaging as of now. It's going to be changing a little bit in the future. We're able to get better buys on our cartons, so they're going to be coming with stuff already on them, so we don't have to do as much hand labor. But it's kind of how it is right now. Into the restaurants, we also go direct into grocery stores, Albertsons Co-op, that kind of stuff. So we have to have our the UPC label and kind of who we are, where we're at, address, all that. So because we are state inspected, we have to use new cartons and have certain stuff, grade and all that on our packaging and date stamp. But that hasn't been too big of a problem. It's just, meeting all the state requirements and stuff is, it's just more stuff that you have to follow and have stainless steel equipment and that kind of fun stuff. I always say check your product, make sure you're handling well if you're selling into those avenues. We always kind of crack eggs open here and there, just making sure we got good egg quality. There's going to be stuff that slips by, but try to do the best that you can to know what you're delivering to these people are a good product. These are those houses, those pull type houses that we converted into a broiler house. So on the right is when they're just getting out of the brooder, coming in to the pull house. We have the covering off typically just so there's good sunlight, good warmth in the early part of the year. Later in the year, the covering's always on. As you can see on the left, they have a little bit of, side sun that we can roll up and let the fresh air come across them. But we have the automatic waters and then just gravity feeders that we fill up every day. We can run, these are 20 by 48. And so we have about 500 birds per house is kind of the max that we go to on these houses. One side note on these houses, please, when you're not using them or if you're going to be any high wind, make sure they're anchored down. We had our first accidents this last winter. Luckily, no birds were in there, but these houses got rolled and got bent up pretty good in the wind. So that can be a problem. So make sure you have ways of tightening things down and kind of having a plan for when there is issues, being able to, mitigate those. But the chickens, there's lots of space. The chickens do well. Always providing cool, clean water is very important. So make sure you check your water source, that it is a really good water source. We paid for the more expensive test to check all the different minerals and contaminants could be in water. The well that we were going to use on all of ours ended up having really high arsenic and uranium, and we've been using it for a lot of things in the past. And so I'm just really glad we ended up paying that money for that test. Make sure you have good water, because the animals are only as healthy as, how clean their air and water is. That's the two most important things for animals, is clean air and water, and then feed. And the soil also goes back to the feed, but air and water is super important for these birds and any type of animal. So make sure you have good water. So we have the broiler chickens. That's some of the meat package. And my sister-in-law on the marketing side, all of our pictures on our website, she takes everything. She kind of does all that presentation. So we don't buy any stock photos. We can say, everything is ours. And so just kind of how it's packaged. We do parts and pieces as well. We go to a USDA butcher here close by, and so we can sell parts and pieces as well. We do the pasture turkeys for Thanksgiving. These are not for the faint of heart. Turkeys, if we've lost money on any animal, it's probably been the turkeys. We seem to always have problems. We found out a new problem this year. The turkeys were intermingled with chickens. We found out that's a big no-no. They can get blackhead, and some of ours did. We didn't have it near as bad as a lot of people in the country had it this year. I guess it was a really bad year for it, but it's just one to know that they say to not mix chickens and turkeys, which we have in the past. This finally caught up to us, but we're going to try them again. But they're a fun bird to have around. They're kind of like having a lot of little dogs. They like to follow. They like interaction, and they're just a lot higher maintenance on that end of interaction than like the broilers or the laying hens. So yeah, pasture turkeys, they're fun, but they haven't been our best money maker by any means. And so on the pasture pork, we do the direct sales. Here's just a couple pictures of the product. We go USDA here in Nampa through Northwest Premium on that, and we also do hanging sales, so we sell it through the state butchers. But they don't have any cure as of right now. There's a Greenfield Meats is working on it, so we can't sell bacon or ham. So this is sliced pork belly. People can season it themselves and make their own bacon. But that's kind of all that we have available. But yeah, getting creative in that direct sales and just being able to provide really good quality product to these people. They're appreciative, and we always say we have the best customers in the world, but when you try really hard, they do appreciate that, and they can tell. So I think the other opportunity, so we do farm tours as well with these animals, public and private. We have on-farm dinners at times and workshops. People have come out and have done workshops. There's some that'll go on this fall that we open our farm to, and so those are other opportunities that, as you get your farm going. So questions?
Oh, great. We have had one question that has come in so far, and that's, are your chickens pasture, grass-fed, or organic, and do you vaccinate?
So we are not organic. We do provide, grain to our chickens. Like on the broilers, if I know there's people that have, they use all kind of plant-based. The chickens grow really slow. And a broiler chicken, after about 7-8 weeks, will start to get tough. It reaches past that maturity stage, even though it looks like it's nice and juicy. That meat does start to get tough. So they're an omnivore. They need that grain for the energy to grow normal. There are other breeds that you could probably get away with the all grass-fed thing, but it's really tough. They have to get some energy somehow with a lot of bugs or whatever manner. So we provide free choice grain to them. We move them onto fresh grass every day, so they have access. We do that in the morning. This is another key. Move your birds in the morning so that everything under that shelter is cold grass. If you move them in the afternoon, you're moving that house onto hot ground, and that will cause that house to be hotter, and then they have more heat stress. Sorry, that just popped into my head, but that's another thing to look at it with those broiler chickens. And was there another part of that question I didn't answer?
Do you vaccinate?
Oh, vaccinate. We don't do anything. Our cattle we vaccinate, but nothing else. We buy the chickens. I think they get their vaccinations as day olds on the broilers, and then the laying hens come vaccinated, and the baby pigs are vaccinated, but we don't give anything on farm besides beef cattle.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, that's all all the questions that we had for you today. Thank you again for all of your time and presentations and sharing your experience with us.
Yeah. Yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out, you can share my phone number or our email. We're always open